The journey behind Zack Snyder's Justice League is comprised of tragedy, hope, perseverance, and ultimately, redemption. If you've been part of the cultural zeitgeist surrounding superhero movies, you'll know about two words that immediately inspire heated debates and fervent dialogue. Snyder Cut.
Shall we?
Hollywood makes two kinds of movies. They make movies by committee, and they make filmmaker movies.
Yeah. Okay. Fuck yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
I reckon you should show it.
What, you think I should just show it?
Yeah, I think
I
you
mean-
should.
I reckon
Well,
it
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
No disagreement here.
I think that, I mean, I don't have I can't show the movie right now, because it's still a little bit to do. But I mean, there is this. I have this. I don't know if this is helpful. We're doing it, so get ready.
Oh my god.
So, Justice League, any news? Are you going to be involved? You must be involved in some manner in anything.
Here's the thing.
Have you said this a few times now?
No, it's different. I mean, yes, I've said it a few times, but I think that it's important to talk about because, I've said that Superman, the Justice League is a top-down affair, in my opinion. You got to. There's two things you got to do. One, you've got to get Superman's house in order, right? Just like you top down Superman, you got to sort of top down then the rest of the DC characters. And whether that's a Justice League movie or whether that's just a way of expanding Superman's universe, those are things that I think, that's the next conversation, I think, for me.
We have to be ready. You, me, the others. There's an attack coming from far away.
Not coming, Bruce. It's already here.
Well, what is the Snyder Cut? Chances are, if you're watching this, you're aware of the basic facts. The Snyder Cut, by definition, is the original cut of 2017's Justice League, before studio mandated reshoots and changes led to the theatrical version we all saw in November. But behind the story of Justice League is the story of the director behind it. So let's talk a little bit about Zack Snyder, the director behind films like 300, like Watchmen, some of the greatest movies in this genre. So after the Dark Knight trilogy, which was amazing work by Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder was tasked with making a Superman film that was gonna be the start of building the world of DC. So he started with Man of Steel, where Superman is now the heart of this universe, and the universe starts with him. So Man of Steel is a journey of Superman finding himself, finding his way in the world, and then you have Batman v Superman, where now you have a story about how the world views him and how complicated that is. Zack Snyder basically, with incredible passion and precision, made two films that became pop culture icons. After watching Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I remember me and my brothers discussing it daily. And Batman v Superman was such a great film that we actually were so excited we would talk about it every single day, in terms of what the implications would be on Justice League. And Justice League was a topic of conversation every single day until November 17th. 2017. And then it became a topic of conversation for a totally different reason.
While popular and commercially successful, these films did not get the same response critically, which led to a reactionary move by the studio, Warner Brothers. Zack Snyder was hired to direct Justice League, the third movie in an overall 5-movie arc. After completing principal photography, tragedy befell the Snyder family. The passing of Zack's daughter Autumn led to the director leaving the project to heal and grieve.
Through all this, the fans remained steadfast in the support for JL and for Zack Snyder, under the false promises from Warner Bros. That the film would remain in Zack's vision and that Joss Whedon was being brought in for limited reshoots only. At the end of 2017, we all saw what the end result would be. The film that we got, the theatrical release of Justice League, was almost as if it was a parody of what it should have been. Stripped down completely with under a runtime mandate of 2 hours, try to fit in as many showtimes as possible in an attempt to please everyone, Warner Bros., and their final product pleased no one. And it ended up being one of the worst financial losses for any blockbuster in recent history.
Now, some skeptics will immediately say every film has reshoots. And that's true. Most films of a blockbuster scale will go through pickup shots or reshoots. But Justice League was a different affair. The film was ripped out of the hands of Zack Snyder while off the project and mutilated. Joss Whedon, hired by the studio to simply punch up dialogue, did so much more. He ended up writing 80 new pages of Chris Terrio's script, most of it being complete plot rewrites, and changed the dialogue to a candy cane tone. Soon, Terrio's script was left as a shell of itself. Whedon even got a Writers Guild credit, showcasing just how much work was done after Snyder left the project. Like Zayyan said, the final product satisfied no one. A bizarro-faced Henry Cavill playing a poor man's mockery of Christopher Reeve was just a start in a long line of embarrassing character moments, bizarre dialogue choices, and a 2-hour studio mandate that made the film feel like a bad Saturday morning cartoon.
Not long after the movie released, whispered start of another film, Zack's original film. In the next 3 years, those whispers turned into roars, with incredible fan campaigns, charity events, and reporting from the few journalists willing to tell the complete story. Over the next hour or so, we will take you through the journey to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
But I've seen it, so.
I've seen
the Snyder Cut, so.
You've seen his assemblage of footage and alternate takes, etc.
Oh, do you think Zack couldn't finish it? You don't think he?
I don't know. You tell me. He's finished.
I mean, listen, man. Next question. Bro.
What is the state of the Snyder Cut? And what is that behind-the-scenes look from 2017 onwards that people were just not privy to? And for that, I want to give it to the experts, which is going to be Steven and Dave, to give their thoughts on this. Go ahead, guys.
So, Steven, I did many videos on my channel. Every time I heard some crazy rumor or something that it's going to take this much money to remove a mustache, to basically information that said that half the movie or most of the movie was going to be reshot. And I know we had many discussions where it was like, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. These guys, they're just being haters, whatever. And we kind of just like went through the motions of, I did videos about debunking that. You kind of felt the same way, you know, with the writing and then putting out there on Twitter. But, well, let's face it. When we saw the theatrical release, my frown went my smile went upside down. So.
Yeah, it was crazy because when the news first broke that Zack Snyder was stepping down, that was as Snyder fans, that was really disappointing. We were really looking forward to his follow-up to Batman v Superman. But immediately following that, they said, oh, Joss Whedon is coming in, and there was a narrative that...
I remember being happy about it. I was actually okay with that.
Well, it was disappointing that Snyder was gone, but the way they couched it was that he would be completing Snyder's vision, was the specific words, that most of it was done, and it was just he was going to kind of guide it through the post-production process.
To the finish line. Yeah.
Which, in Snyder's movies are so intricately planned, how much of a difference could that really make? And, you know, clearly, in our minds, they just brought Whedon in because he was experienced making big team-up blockbuster movies because he'd done 2 Avengers movies.
Oh, he did one before? Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so it was really easy to kind of buy the PR spiel that, oh, Whedon is just sticking to the plan. news started to come out about, oh, there's minor reshoots just for connective tissue, I think was the words they initially used. And then different reports started to come out claiming that it wasn't just connective tissue and it wasn't just minor reshoots, but they were actually overhauling the tone of the movie due to the reaction to Batman v Superman, and that Whedon was drastically changing Snyder's vision. And we didn't want to believe that, and so we kind of stuck with the official talking points of, well, clearly this is wrong because that's not what Warner Brothers said. And even leading up into the press tour,
I even remember even saying like, oh no, Snyder's okay with it. He likes Whedon. They're like good, not best friends, but they're good friends. Of course, he brought him on. I totally believe that spiel, and of course, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even during the press tour, then you had like Ben Affleck was on the press tour and said something along the lines of, if you think that it's possible to change a movie to that extent in the post-production process, you don't know how movies are made. And this is Ben Affleck talking. So, who am I to question?
Who's also a filmmaker.
The movie making talent of Ben Affleck. And kind of learned a rough lesson there about when you're making a movie, you say we have to just do it to sell it, even if you're Ben Affleck. Like I understand kind of his position there, unfortunately now. But yeah, it came out and it was obvious that wasn't the case. It was obviously there was something not just missing from the movie, but it was drastically changed. The story and the tone, nothing matched.
Yeah.
Not only just the previous movies, but the trailers and marketing for Justice League itself.
Yeah, I remember one of the first things I wanted to tweet was like a GIF of Twisted Sister, the lead singer. He's D. Snyder, because that's essentially what happened. That's what I felt like when I walked out of the Warner Brothers lot when I saw the movie with press and everything. And I remember just looking, to the guy that was behind me who I had a conversation with. I'm like, they pretty much de-Snydered that, didn't they? I mean, it was noticeable right from the get-go, and even all throughout, where it's just. And I remember even hearing about them bringing on Danny Elfman, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. We're gonna have the classic Batman scene and possibly the John Williams scene.
Or some people even matched up videos where they do like Batman from the trailers with the classic Batman theme, and
I kind of, being a Batman fan, I was all about it, but when watching the movie, it just was like, it just doesn't feel quite right. I mean, I just recently watched the '89 Batman, and I'm like, that works for that, but does it work for this? Not necessarily. Same with the John Williams score. It just didn't feel like the universe is really matched with that score.
And I think the mistake that they made was that a lot of filmmakers, maybe you'd be able to pull that off, but Zack Snyder is he puts unique. So much intricate planning into the way he storyboards every single scene ahead of time. They even work off the storyboard more than do off the script. Like the entire aesthetic of the movie is determined before it's shot, and so he shoots it to so he shoots the movie to fit that aesthetic. And so to come in after the fact and say, oh no, we're going to change the music and we're going to change the color, this doesn't jive. and it was obvious, which was weird, because it's part of the reason that it was easy to doubt the reshoot rumors is because reshoot news, like if you consume much movie news, reshoots are always overblown.
Always going to be a part of it.
There's always.
I mean, they literally have like budget set up and like time set up for that. We know that's going to happen, but
exactly, it's a standard part of the process.
Yeah.
Then I know both of us started hearing pretty quickly. Then after we noticed that, I know we started talking and we heard that maybe Snyder's exit wasn't quite as amicable as had been suggested. There was a lot more behind the scenes tension, specifically related to the fallout from his previous movies, and there was immediately people started demanding a Snyder Cut. I don't remember where you fell on that initially. I wanted it, but my initial thought was, well, based on how drastically they changed this, I can't see how the original. I thought that they had made it that way because they had no other choice. Like, they just didn't have enough finished Snyder footage to make it correctly.
That's what it felt like. But at the same time, I was going, well, I mean, we got an ultimate cut of BVS, which that extra half an hour, it just felt like it almost transformed the movie. And it actually, I mean, you look at John Schnepp, he did not like the original BVS, but when he went and saw the Ultimate Edition, he pretty much did like a 180 flip. I remember watching that and seeing his reaction to it. And then I thought, well, maybe we'll get something like that with Justice League. But then when you started really learning about more of the stuff, and like you said, when we got caught wind of maybe he didn't just leave or anything. And then all of a sudden I get contacted by somebody who was kind of like my line to Zach, and he started saying stuff. He started feeding me information. Of course, I vetted him for like a good month. Big time. I was like, this guy is some MCU fanboy that, is just trying to like get under my skin and try to do, he's trying to just make me, he's going to make me try to get me to say stuff on my videos and blah, blah, blah. But it's as soon as I vetted him and I realized, oh, okay, this guy's a real deal. That's when I think you and I kind of really started talking and just started like going back and forth about what we're hearing like behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing as we dug into that more and more, we were finding stuff. There was concept art and VFX reels and
beautiful
all sorts of
art.
stuff that just wasn't in it wasn't just that it was like extended or alternate takes from what we saw. It was stuff that we didn't even know where it was supposed to fit in this movie. At one point I went through and I think you did this a little bit too, but we went through like most of the IMDb and reached out to extras and whoever we could find that had been involved in the movie. And I talked to a good number of people that had been involved in the history lesson scene, and it was crazy just how much was. I was talking to people that were like, "Oh yeah, I was a part of the Mandarin army," and other people were like, "Oh, I was a part of," and there was all this stuff going on that I'm like, I don't even know where this is, and they're like, "Oh no, it's not in there." But and so it became very clear very early, not just from kind of what you can see in the movie, but once you kind of start digging into this and talking to people that actually made the movie, it wasn't just altered and cut down. It was fundamentally changed.
Yeah. Specifically the history lesson, because we figured that was mainly that's Snyder 100% right there. When you watch it, you think like, okay, they didn't change any of that, but I mean, maybe they didn't like do many reshoots, but they definitely cut it down majorly. I mean, and then of course stuff that we found out that maybe it's not Steppenwolf that's part of the history lesson. I mean, and then of course that was really made relevant when who's the stunt guy that played
Nick McKinless?
Yes, that guy. Thank you. Mm-hmm. When he came out and said like, he got into this like ridiculous shape. I mean, he was trimmed. I mean, he was ripped, jacked to play God,
Ares.
Names eluding Ares. Jeez. This is why me and you talk so much, because you're good with that. When my brain just goes. Anyways, I mean, he got in such ridiculous shape, and he started talking about like, oh yeah, I had a major fight scene, and then everything came out with that, and some of these people are becoming very vocal about it, and they want to be when you talk about stuff like that, when you talk about actors that weren't compensated and that didn't give their credited or anything, they're uncredited in IMDb. I mean, that's where you kind of wonder, like, I mean, is there any more when it comes to the status of the Snyder Cut and if it's going to come out? You kind of wonder when it does, like what's going to happen with like all of them, I guess you could say,
Right. Well, and I wanted to initially, like I said, I didn't necessarily buy that there was an entire other movie out there. It was clear that it was fundamentally changed, and it was shortchanged. It was stuff was cut out from what it was supposed to be. But the big question was, how far did Snyder get before he left?
Yeah.
And so then I remember at one point, go ahead.
Well, we knew that he wrapped up principal photography, but obviously, like we said at the beginning, there's always going to be pickup shots. There's going to be reshoots. There's going to be, anything. And that's when we kind of, thought, okay, he's just going to have Whedon do it. But, that's a whole other thing. But, I think we just figured it like, since he was basically done, there wasn't going to be like a super need for all that. But
right.
Go ahead.
Well, and I'd done a bunch of research into like the Solo movie had lost Lord and Miller. And I remember I dug into like the DGA basic agreement and found sort of the clause that allowed that to happen. And that year I'd done a lot of different digging like that. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to put this whole thing to bed once and for all. I'll start looking into the production process and I'll find out, I'll nail down where Snyder was in production based on standard practices. And then I'll publish an article, something like, unfortunately the Snyder Cut doesn't exist. Let's look forward to what he has next. And so I started digging, and we went back and looking like at his social media posts, and you notice that there's really specific stuff that he posted during production. He posted a video of a VFX test for Jason Momoa from Scanline or DNEG. I can't remember which VFX company it was. But down at the bottom, you see it's an underwater shot, and down at the bottom it says "test for final approval." It's like, okay, well, so some and that was in March, I think, of 2017. And so you start thinking, okay, so there was some VFX done. and then you see that he posted a video of Gal Gadot doing
ADR. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so
And everybody was talking about the counter. Like, look at the counter right there. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And so you dig into, okay, so what's the typical, at what point in production do they perform ADR? Well, they usually don't do ADR until after most of the editing is done, because you don't want to spend all the time doing ADR for like recording dialogue for scenes that are going to get cut anyway. You usually wait until you have something close to a director's cut or a picture lock before you do that. There's a picture of him doing color timing, which is, or digital intermediate, which is basically the same thing. You don't really do that until you have something close to a picture lock or a director's cut. And so the more I looked into this, I traced it all the way down to, okay, maybe it's not 100% complete, but there's most of a Snyder movie in there. What is it going to take to finish this up? And so instead of publishing that the Snyder Cut doesn't exist article, I ended up publishing one called "The Snyder Cut is More Complete Than You Think."
I remember that. That was one of the first things you posted, right? Or you wrote about this?
Yeah, and I thought at the time I kind of thought like, wow, this is a big deal. This is kind of going to be the end of that. And that was over like a couple years ago now.
Yeah.
And really a lot of the information didn't change a whole lot since that point, but it just took years for slowly until Snyder himself basically came out and posted several different times to claim, no, it's done. I mean, it exists. The VFX art supervisors came out and said they'd finished, a lot of scenes were finished, a lot of scenes were almost done, and Junkie XL said that his score was finished, and so it's, you know, piece by piece, it became more evident that most of it was done, and it just needed, you know, a little bit of money to get the VFX polished up and do the sound mixing, everything, and get it finished.
And that's where we even talk about, like, you could say, even as the years went by, as time went by, and all of a sudden Snyder comes out, like you said, and really starts pushing this thing, and then all of a sudden he says Zack Snyder's Justice League. We start seeing that everywhere, and you almost got to go like, okay, what's going to be the difference between what we initially just thought of the Snyder Cut, and then you have Zack Snyder's Justice League? What could be different about that? Well, for one, the runtime is definitely going to be changing. If he wants to do additional photography, if he wants to inject any of the assembly cut into it, I mean, it might be like a whole different beast than what he actually has right now that's in those cans, that the 3 hours and 34 minutes. And like you said, like when it comes to finishing like VFX and everything, and just everything, I mean, it basically went from just like, yeah, there's a Snyder Cut, and then all of a sudden it went to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm like, okay, now it's like a whole different beast. I mean, I think like we've had many discussions about that too, and how he basically branded the Snyder Cut, but put it with his, you know, with a little bit different. And I think it's something to be excited for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that the big exciting thing about that is that it has been proven that there is a value, there's a demand for this, and there is a value in it. And
totally. I mean, you got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. You got all these. I mean, they're just big properties that are just sitting right there with like basically almost in a complete movie.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
story.
And that's it's a 3.5 hour movie is what he had made, and it Whedon reshot vast majority of it. And so there was the exact runtime is hard to exactly calculate down, because who knows, you know, some scenes are hard to know who made what.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think it is easy to say that there's more unseen footage that was in Zack Snyder's cut than there was total footage in Whedon's cut of the movie, which is just, it's insane. And so when you start talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League and you see the way it was changed, some of those changes were made like before he even left production due to pressures from the studio.
Yeah. Which sucks. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you look at if he's going back and he's finishing it, the question then becomes, okay, so do you finish it up exactly as it would have been, or do you do something different with it to make it clear that this is not just a what we saw in the theaters, but with more Zack Snyder in it? No, this is something that he truly owns. His name is on it. It's not just Snyder's cut of the movie that you already saw. This is Zack Snyder's Justice League as you were intended to see it.
Yeah, and one of the early things that Jason Momoa said was that we shot enough for 2 movies. You know, and there's always that aspect of it too.
Right.
You know, like it got cut. I mean, he even admitted later on, I think to Scott Mendelson, which was a beautiful tweet there. He said like the assembly cut was like 5+ hours. I mean, to try to like inject some of that, use some of that into Zack Snyder's Justice League. I mean, yeah. I mean, the runtime is going to increase, and
Well,
I mean,
so
the
you
more
go
the
back,
merrier.
exactly. And when you go back and you watch not just, or you get not just the stuff from Zack that was cut and getting that finished up, but then also, if he wants to shoot additional stuff, that he can then get that in there too. It's truly a unique product, and I think should be considered a different movie entirely. It's not just a different cut of Justice League. It is a different Justice League movie.
Totally. I mean,
well said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just to add on like a couple of things you're saying, you know, speaking on kind of when we first heard about the cut, my brothers and I got first word just a couple of days after the movie came out. And
I think it was November 21st, right?
Yeah, and it's actually a very interesting story about the wording of that tweet, because I got the information from someone who I felt was very close to the situation, like very close. And then I was like, how can I word this? So then I asked someone else if they can ask some other person, and I worded exactly the way I worded this tweet. And we got the yes on that. We got like a thumbs up, and I said, okay, let's go for it. And I tweeted that out, and then it went viral for its time. Like it got like 1,000 retweets, 3,000 likes, or the case might be. I'm like, okay, there is a huge audience that cares, because originally the four of us were in the assumption that, okay, yeah, Zack Snyder, we're big fans of him, and he has fans, but nothing like we thought, like how people assembled together. And I think speaking of assembling together, we should move on to the Snyder Cut movement, the birth of the movement.
The others, where are they?
What does the Snyder Cut movement stand for? For some, it's the battle to fight for Zack Snyder, their love for the visionary director fueling them to make this dream a reality. For others, it's the battle for artistic integrity, lovers of film and cinema coming together to fight for a director that had his film taken away to create a fast food product. Regardless of why one joined this movement, the end goal was the same: to release the Snyder Cut. Fans from across the world, journalists willing to tell the story, YouTubers and podcasters using their platform to bring awareness all came together for a singular vision. That dream became a reality. Now hear what some of the most influential fans say about their time in the Snyder Cut movement.
So when discussing the birth of the Snyder Cut movement, you gotta look at it from a whole bigger context. And I think we have the perfect voices to discuss that context. And we're gonna start right away with Chris Wong-Swenson. Chris, tell us how you got into this movement.
So thank you, Sheraz. I got into this because I am first and foremost a DC fan. I mean, I'm a fan of the Christopher Reeve movies, the Christopher Nolan movies. Pretty much anything DC related and film, I'm there. I want to talk about it. I want to watch it. And I really started my own channel via Batman v Superman. Because when Man of Steel came out, it was kind of like another Batman movie, because we never really had the sense of a universe yet. But when Batman v Superman came out, it was very intriguing, because you finally got a movie with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Doomsday, and also hinting at a larger picture in that movie. And for me, I'm like, Mike, this is what I've been born for. I mean, this is why I love this stuff. This is why I love DC. This is finally a chance to see all those characters that I grew up with together for the first time. And I think a lot of people shared that with me. I want to say a majority of you were just like, this is incredible. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the Trinity right there on the screen. And it was so moving. It was such dripping with anticipation for the rest of the universe. And I love what he has done with that. And, you know, I like to say I'm a Snyder fan. Of course I am. And I think a lot of people are as well. But that combination Snyder, DC. It just seemed to have really, really worked for me and for a lot of people. And so when I started my channel, I just wanted to just express my feelings, the everything that I felt for this beginning of this universe. And I'm so happy there are a lot of people out there who share that same interest, to the point that when I was starting to hype up Justice League and seeing that Zack Snyder was going to really blow this out of the water, it was amazing. I can see, you know, my viewerships went up. A lot of people were interacting with me. We were tossing our ideas and speculation of what's going to happen. I think one of my biggest videos was Superman's big return. And that actually stemmed from Jeff Johns saying, revise your list, right? Because this is Superman's big moment. And so I got over 100,000 views on that because people were so anticipating that return. Of course, when Justice League kind of happened, it had a weird split. I think there were DC fans who were kind of just okay with it. It was supposed to be something so exciting with all these characters, but something was wrong. It was an okay watch, but then it didn't hold you like it did with Man of Steel. It didn't hold you like it did with BVS. And I think that kind of was the birth of the movement. This is where we reached out on social media. We reached out to each other. Fiona, who is a big voice in the movement in the beginning, where she was there, she was, you know, she tweeted out just like you, Sheraz, about November 2017 and how there is possibly something that is a Snyder Cut. Movies that may here put out the hashtag release a Snyder Cut. There's Screen Rant articles. I think from when the theatrical movie came out, there was like a lull. And then something happened where we started to learn more about this quote unquote Snyder Cut, and that interest started to peak up again. You mean we can probably relive this moment, relive what is supposed to be Zack Snyder's Justice League? So I think from that moment, people were more on the high of Justice League. And there's also a section of people who were, you know, really loved what Man of Steel and BVS was doing, that tone and where it was going. And they fell off. They fell off the cliff probably when the other movies came out.
I could tell you, Scott and I started our podcast, originally called the Suicide Squadcast. We began that thing right after Man of Steel. And Scott, I mean, I think you would agree with me on this thing. We were super enthusiastic about Man of Steel. Like, it was such an exciting film. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Scott, tell like how much of a DC fan, or how much of DC fans are we when it comes to all the different properties?
I mean, if anyone has followed me on social media, they understand I grew up with the Keaton movies. I grew up watching all the animated series. I have read so many comic books, and right before Man of Steel had come out, you know, the New 52 had happened in the comics. I had started collecting again after a 10, 15-year lull because of adulting and growing up. And so it was the comic books brought me back in. Man of Steel happened in 2013. And I saw Man of Steel, and I remember it came out Father's Day weekend. I had just become a father a couple of months prior, and I went with my dad to go see that movie. And I remember the discussions that I had with my father after seeing Man of Steel, going, that's something we've never seen before. Right. And for my father and I, that was a glowing recommendation of, this is new, this is different. They took that seriously. Yeah. And for a DC fan, I loved seeing my material being treated with a theatrical flair that I had never seen before, because I love comic books. I love movies, just movies in general, and I love comic book movies. And so it was this perfect marriage. And so when we eventually in 2015, you know, got connected online and started doing this podcast, because we were like, we love the DC films. Yeah. We weren't hearing a lot of positivity online about them. And our decision was, well, let's be that voice. Let's be that positivity. and what would later become very is that voice of help me find the others like you.
Yeah, we were when we took this show and finally decided to start doing it. I mean, I think, you know, Scott and I have talked about this later. Like, we were expecting we maybe do a few episodes and it would just kind of like, yeah, we tried that, and it, you know, and we would move on to something else. And it took off so fast, and you know, and I'm not going to give ourselves credit for that. I give credit to the fans that were just really dying and to just hear this discussion, and you could just feel the enthusiasm coming from every interaction that we had with people. And it took off so fast. We were like suddenly like, oh no, now we have to kind of keep going, because like there's this huge fan base that is just dying to have this kind of conversation. And so then we could actually see it in our numbers. We could see like all these fans coming to listen to the podcast, and it was clear that we were kind of providing like something that the fans were wanting to hear. They were wanting to be part of that conversation, and then it also gave us enthusiasm. And you know, it took off. And when you would look at our numbers, it would tell us that, and not because of anything that we were doing, but you could just see that from episode to episode, more and more fans were coming in because they were getting so enthusiastic and excited about this thing. And if you look at this chart that I've got, really showing as a metric, like the number of relative downloads that we have from each of the subsequent DC EU films. You know, our Man of Steel review got a ton of downloads, and we thought that was a lot. But then came Batman v Superman, and it almost doubled. And then with each subsequent film, Suicide Squad ramped up even more. And then it just like it peaked at Wonder Woman, and there was like no signs of this thing dropping off. And then that's when Justice League happened. And at that point in time, you know, we had our own personal experience with the film, and we were hearing from all of our, you know, listeners that we interacted with all the time, how they felt about it. And you could feel the change. It was like turning off a light switch.
It was weird because we had people who would email us and tweet. I mean, we couldn't keep, it became a joke. We couldn't keep up with the emails.
No, we couldn't.
Like we would apologize and go, guys, if you're gonna write us an email, it's gonna take us a while to get to it. They'll tweet at us, and we'd have DMs, and people wanted to talk about this. And then when Justice League happened theatrically, it stopped. It came to a grinding halt. We had fans who suddenly we weren't interacting with anymore. We had people write us emails going, guys, my heart just isn't in it anymore. I love you guys. I want to support you, but I need to take a break right now.
Yeah.
And the problem was that they took a break and they never came back.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's almost like an ending of a universe almost.
it almost ended our own show. I mean, quite honestly, like we almost stopped. We were demoralized. But you know, we kept going. But I mean, you know, our Justice League numbers were lower than even Wonder Woman. So like just that little hit, we had a lot of people that just said, you know what, I don't even want to hear any review about this. And so, you know, so we lost it there. And then from there, we probably had a lot of people that tuned in and said, like, is it just me? Am I the only one feeling what I'm feeling? And we tried to keep our review as positive as possible. But then, you know, as time went on, our first real test was like the next big film, which was a huge success box office wise, was Aquaman. But we had a 62% drop in numbers.
And
it
didn't feel the same. We were talking about these movies, and they were different in a way that it was not inspiring the enthusiasm and the conversation that we had experienced throughout 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And then the last thing I was going to say to that, and each subsequent film after Aquaman, it's continued to just kind of slowly creep down. And it's, you know, so we have our anecdotal data about how our interactions with our fans, like you could just see the change in enthusiasm, but you've got this real stark data, and it's hard to see it, but it's real and it's tangible. And, you know, and so that to kind of add on to like what kind of happened to the growing fan base.
You know, I want to jump back to you because the flip side to the data is that, for these guys, you saw that downward kind of spiral after Justice League. But then talk to me about your presence, especially in this movement, and your videos kind of finding a new life when you cover the Snyder Cut and cover these developments. And did you find that when you do cover the Snyder Cut, you get significant more numbers than let's say you covered?
I'd say so. Yes, I definitely say so. Like, especially when Zack Snyder throws a little nugget once in a while, you see the conversation brewing, and every little piece, is, whether it's someone's being revealed that that they saw the Snyder Cut, or someone that's saying release the Snyder Cut, it doesn't matter. Like, I noticed, like you guys probably see on your own podcast, is that when I talk about Aquaman, or when I talk about Birds of Prey, it's like over 1,000 or even 2,000 views less than if I talk about the Snyder Cut. People are intrigued by the Snyder Cut. People want to know more. Everybody's a detective. They're putting on their own tinfoil hat, if you will, and just trying to find every little thing, even a picture Zack Snyder puts out. They're looking at the numbers. They're looking at, what does that mean? Does that mean this? Does that mean that? I mean, I remember the day when Snyder showed a picture of a cut thumb, and that was like, that's the Snyder Cut. and that's so amazing. But you see so much enthusiasm for that. You see so much hope in everything presented. And I think in a way, it's what I've speculated, because most of my videos were pretty much speculation during that time. And that's why I call it a tinfoil hat. At least for me, it gave me more hope that there is something bigger out there. There's a grander story. There's something that is unique and big, like an actual Justice League, the one that I've been waiting to see in 2017. And I hope I've given that hope to everybody else. And I think that's why they come on and they start doing their own tinfoiling. And I sometimes am sorry for influencing that type of thinking, but I think that all stems from excitement. That all stems from hype. That all stems from everybody wanting to see what we all want to see. And that is, we now know, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Well said, well said. You spoke about things like hope. You spoke about things like enthusiasm. I think that perfectly segues into our next discussion, which is going to be what ended up becoming the true north of this fandom.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has become a cornerstone of Zack Snyder's fandom. In honor of Autumn Snyder, the fans have launched dozens of campaigns, t-shirt events, fundraisers, and charity streams, with all the proceeds going to AFSP, not only to raise money, but to raise awareness. And thus far, they've raised close to $200,000, with more initiatives to come.
My turn. So we want to switch gears now and talk about AFSP. We want to talk about what's become the true north for Zack Snyder's fans, and that's giving back to the community regularly. And I think we have the probably three best people for this conversation. It's Mick, Nana, and Cole. And these three have been instrumental, like I said before, in organizing many of the campaigns and much of the fan coordination that we saw that led to the money that was raised. So I'm going to start with Mick. Tell me about how this all kind of came together.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of mainly the campaigning is about 2 years running now at this point, and over the course of 2 years, two and a bit years now, we've raised over $175,000 in total for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. But I think what's like another big impact of this really is how it's kind of raised awareness in all of our lives around mental health in general, like those in our lives who struggle with this and those of us who actually struggle ourselves. So, I mean, but it all really starts, it really goes back 3 years to nearly, this time of the year, the Zack's devastating news. I mean, forget the movie, just as people, like I'm a father of a daughter, that kind of heartbreak is unimaginable. And, it kind of at that time made me more aware of people in my life who've been probably struggling with mental health. And I think around that time Zack had started advocating for AFSP probably straight off the bat, and he'd continued to do that throughout the months afterwards, all the way up through even like to a year later. And I mean, I looked into AFSP myself. I found them very interesting. They didn't just provide like support services for bereaved and education for people struggling. They also do scientific research, and they've got some, you know, they study what are the most effective sort of programs to and strategies for prevention, and they've got some real goals that they want to achieve. So 20% reduction in the United States by, I think, 2025, and that kind of research isn't just going to be applied to the United States. I mean, we're universal. That stuff is going to apply universally. So, I mean, as an organization, it seems like a really, really powerful group of people. And, you know, many of us have been giving to them, you know, inspired by Zack and his advocacy for the organization, you know, when we could from time to time. But I think it was in around March 2013, it was coming up to the actually the Blu-ray release of Justice League, when I think we were all probably a little bit naive at that point, where we thought to ourselves, you know, it's a couple of months after the release, you guys had all been talking about potential, you know, real Snyder Cut. And there was probably a bit of, you know, presumption that maybe with the Blu-ray release we'd get something. And at that time, I remember they released some footage of Superman exiting the Kryptonian ship. And there was a lot of excitement around that. But that quickly turned to, you know, a bit of disappointment as we found out we were really just going to get the same film. And the marketing campaign was clearly targeted towards pulling in the Snyder fans, you know. And it actually landed, they were landing that Blu-ray on the anniversary of Autumn's passing. And, you know, a lot of people found that a little bit, you know, like it was a bit of a cynical move at that time to be showing Snyder's footage as if, you know, you were going to get something. And it became very clear that we weren't going to get that. It was the same thing. And I remember at the time feeling very disappointed and a little bit angry about that myself. So I remember thinking to myself, you know what, I'd rather do, and actually that day, you know, there was a lot of people sharing the Blu-ray, but Zack that day posted about AFSP, you know. He had one thing on his mind, obviously. And that day I decided I'd instead of buying the Blu-ray, I didn't really intend to buy it anyway, but I'd show a sign of solidarity with Zack and decide whatever money I was going to pay for this Blu-ray, had it been of interest to me, I would have, I donated it to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I thought that was a better use of the money. So I was friends with Fiona, we were good friends, and I'd seen how really effectively she was using social media to raise awareness for the film itself, right? So she had, you know, really inspired a lot of people to start talking about the Snyder Cut, start fighting for it. And I thought, like, you know, we can also use this kind of platform. I was new to social media. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was inspired by the way she had, you know, raised awareness and decided, you know, this is something we could possibly do. So I took a screenshot of the receipt and I shared it out. And I said to Fiona, you know, let's try and maybe see if we can inspire people to act. You know, we all give a little bit. Maybe let's see if we can actually use this thing to make a difference. And that worked. We called it the Justice Pledge, and it was, you know, pledge the price of the Blu-ray to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And a lot of people joined in that, and I think in total we raised about just short of $1,000. And to me, that kind of signified the power that you can use in social media to not just raise awareness for a movie that everybody wants to see, but for, you know, to help the real people who are impacted by suicide. So that's kind of where I think it's the first time I think where social media and awareness was used in that way to drive what you would call, I guess, an event or a campaign. And I remember at the time, actually, it's kind of a bit serendipitous. I didn't know the Nerd Queens at the time, but they wrote an article about this. When I went looking back over it, they had an article written. John Garza wrote an article as well. And so that kind of took off, and I think it inspired some people. And then later in the year, I think it was around Wonder Woman's release, Fiona and Chris Finaldo, they put together a thing called 5 for 5, which was a celebration of Wonder Woman as a character, as an inspiring character. That again raised a bunch of money based on a hashtag, and I think it was around $1,600. And that again proved that this kind of, you know, social media and donation around an idea, donation around a symbol and a cause was an effective strategy. So it was in around that time as well that we were thinking, you know, is there a way to make this more formal? There was theories about, you know, putting together an NPO and things like that. But then we were coming up to San Diego Comic-Con in 2018, And that's when we got in touch with the Nerd Queens about an idea to do stuff with T-shirts, and I'll let those guys talk about that adventure themselves.
The day that Nana was flying from the UK to come to Jersey, where I live, to visit with my family, was the day that I was messaged by a friend, Jason LeBoy, and he asked, would you like to do something to help out with the Snyder Cut movement? And at the time, we'd been very loosely on the fringe. We tweeted a little bit. We did join the Justice Pledge. That was our first exposure to like the charity aspect of the movement. And I was like, sure, we're going to San Diego. Let's do it. And so next thing I knew, I was pulled into a chat room with Mick and the other guys with TPZ, and they told me what they wanted to do. They wanted to send us to the con with a couple hundred I Heart ZS t-shirts to merely show support for Zack and show him love. This wasn't really a sort of like organized stunt. This was purely just something to show him love. And so by the time Nana's flight landed, I had placed an order for the most expensive t-shirts I'd ever found in my life for about a couple like $1,000. The boys funded it all themselves, and we had a plan. And so once she was landed, I told her the plan, and that led to us going to San Diego Comic-Con, and in Hall H line, we handed out these t-shirts, which then led to a conversation that would launch the t-shirt charity campaigns, which I'll let Nana explain.
Well, it wasn't so much as a conversation. I was sort of just, we were, at that point, we were just lying on the sidewalk, literally, because we were waiting in a Hall H line for the panels next day. And we were just talking about how the day went and how the handing out the t-shirts went. And we were checking social media, and a lot of people were asking, where can we get this t-shirt? Can we buy it somewhere? I'm willing to pay, you know, I don't care. Just, can we get this t-shirt somewhere? Can we support as well? And I go to a call, and I said, you know, is there a way that we could sell these shirts and do it in a way that basically the money from it goes straight to charity? And I pretty much right away said, that's probably a bad idea. That's probably not possible. And then Cole goes, well, I think I might know a website. And I think I sort of let it go after that, but she didn't. She went to Mick. And turns out that we weren't the only ones who had this idea. And Mick, in return, basically said, you know, we were thinking about this too, but it's not really doable. We don't really have how to do this. People don't want to be responsible for the money from the shirts. And Cole goes, well, I know this website. And that's how we found out about Ink to the People. And that's how the t-shirts campaign began. It was at the beginning, it was fan driven. We started with the I Heart ZS t-shirts because obviously that's what people were asking for, but there were more designs. Mick's wearing one actually. And
a Ramesh special.
And there was, I'm not entirely sure how many of them there was, but by January, Zack joined the whole thing. And that's where All the Gods t-shirt dropped. And that was big boom, I think, in the whole donation thing, because that blew it out of the ballpark. Up until then, we had small campaigns that raised around, say, $1,000. But the All the Gods shirt raised close to $90,000 still today. I'm not sure. And
that's it.
Yeah. And with everything, with all the other t-shirts that came out, including the latest ones that were out, including Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I am wearing, the whole total of donations was over $130,000 till today. And I'd say it became one of the most prominent charity campaigns that we've done. And it's very popular with people. People keep asking for certain designs to come back. It's something that I feel at this point is just timeless. It just sticks with it.
And riding high off of when Zack joined the t-shirt campaigns was when we started planning with other people the first ever organized effort of having a presence at Comic-Con. And when that came together, a decision was made. Yes, we would use crowdfunding to pull together what we needed to make a big splash at the con, but we would double what we were asking for. So we would make predictions of what we need, what funding we needed, and then we would double the price of what we needed. So that way half of that money would go to American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So the conventions then became very large ways of pulling in money for the cause.
And it sort of connected what we were doing for AFSP with, it was kind of like the crossroads between what we were doing for AFSP and between our campaigning for the release of the movie, because the shirts, while obviously they are connected to Zack Snyder and to his films, they were quite kind of separate from that. But this crowdfunding thing was literally the crossroads between, okay, so we're actively campaigning for the movie, and we're raising money for charity in the same time.
Yeah, I think that's when it kind of became, when the convergence really happened. We never really associated fully like the sort of release the Snyder Cut and the charity campaign. It was very explicit at San Diego Comic-Con. The first time that kind of happened actually and came together was actually the first crowdfunding campaign, and that was in November of 2018. It was coming up to the first anniversary of Justice League's theatrical release, and we had done a few T-shirts at this point. And Charlie, who's at Snyder Cut GL on Twitter, he had this cool idea to fly a banner over Warner Brothers Studios, and it would just say "Release the Snyder Cut." And he used GoFundMe for that, and he raised the funds, and he wasn't going to fly that plane unless there was an equivalent amount donated for AFSP as well. And the two of us got into a chat, and we were deciding, what would be the best date to do this. Like, it was obviously going to be around the anniversary of Justice League, and it was going to fly the 17th. But then we thought to ourselves, Monday. So I think the Saturday was the 17th was Saturday. Wouldn't be anybody at the studio. And also, again, naively, everybody was expecting this is a significant date, right? We're going to get the announcement. Everybody did this at every significant date that's come along since, right? And it was the same at that time, no different. And we thought to ourselves, the best thing to do here is maybe do it on Monday the 19th, because, if Justice League is announced, we get this, there's going to be this is like a victory ticker tape parade over Warner Bros. Studios with an airplane. And if it doesn't, it's, there's going to be that, obviously, that lull that happens afterwards, but it will be a morale boost. I mean, seeing that fly over, that's a pickup, right, for everybody. So, and it was similar to the idea of the Hall H T-shirts. If Zack was going to show, he'd see the love on, people literally wearing it on their tops. If he didn't, people were expecting maybe he'd show that year. There'd be disappointment, but when they saw this, again, it's sort of a morale boost. So they were sort of similar in that sort of way in terms of thinking. But it flew over, and Zack went to the lot. Zack had seen the chatter on Vero, and he went to the Warner Brothers lot, and we had a guy who was at Warner Brothers, and he must have been standing on the roof, and he took a picture of the plane. And it's like, when you take a picture of the sun, you think it looks beautiful in the sky, and you take it with your phone, it's a dot, and you're real disappointed. Well, that's what the plane looked like in this photograph. But Zack must have used like an IMAX or something. He captured it beautifully. He zoomed in, he saw the text. And so that was amazing. And he posted on Vero, and he said, that is caring, I think he said. And that sort of, it was him conflating in a way, I guess. I think it was even maybe one of the first times he acknowledged Release the Snyder Cut as a hashtag. I don't know, it could have been. But the sort of the confluence of these two things in the fandom, the support and awareness for his movie, and also the personal support that people give him, and that they want to make a difference, and the comfort that gives. So, yeah, what the girls are saying, we at San Diego Comic-Con, we basically took the entire arsenal and put it together. It was like GoFundMe, right? It was a banner flight, it was T-shirts, there was also billboards.
Bus stop, billboard. We had ground team.
You guys did a ground team as well. Maybe you guys had a special guest at the ground team too, right?
Yes, we
did. We were joined by Ray Porter, Darkseid.
Yeah, that was amazing. We San Diego was actually, I'd say, the biggest project that we've done at that time. And there was quite a lot of people who worked on it. There was different sections. Everybody did something, and it was, I mean, we could name so many names right now. We had ground team. That was our sort of thing because we've done it year before with the shirts, obviously. So we tried to focus on that. But the guys did amazing work with getting the billboard, getting the bus stop, which was really, really successful. There was a lot of buzz about that. There was a plane fly above banner above San Diego Comic-Con, which, again, a lot of people paid attention to. But overall, the whole project was really something that we haven't done before in terms of funds, in terms of how many things we were doing. And it was in the works for months. I think the talk started around January.
Yeah. Two other notable things about that for me were in that group and for the San Diego Comic-Con, that was a real coming together of a lot of different parts of the fandom. So like people, like within the fan community, we've got a lot of sort of different groups of friends. I mean, there were so many people from different groups in that chat group, and everybody really just pulled together, even though like we debated what's the best way to do this, everybody pulled together. And that was like a real sense of unity. And I think when Zack put that thing on his t-shirt at the end of the year, then you never faced us before, not as united. That really resonates with me for San Diego Comic-Con, because that was like a really, really great example of people coming together, like, and just, working things out and making things happen. And the other thing about that was, it was also the first time I think that we got really big mainstream sort of awareness outside of the echo chamber of Twitter and Vero, where, there were articles written about it, like a plane flying over Comic-Con, the bus shelter. There was a lot of noise about it in sort of mainstream press, and also it is still the single largest fan-driven fundraiser, like an individual fan-driven fundraiser. So that was significant. And off the back of that, then, like sort of, I guess a partnership with AFSP developed in that regard. Then, where they had been aware. Obviously, I had been talking about the T-shirts with them for a while and some other campaigns, and they thought that what happened at San Diego Comic-Con was really, really impressive. And at that stage, we had Zack's. We had Zack's All the Gods T-shirt at that stage. So we were over $100,000 at that point in time, and they really wanted to shine a spotlight on what the fan community had done. And so they reached out to me and asked if I would write a blog article about, what the movement had achieved and how it was raising awareness. So I agreed to do that. I tried not to write it so much from my point of view of the events themselves, but more about the movement and kind of how there is this confluence between Zack, his art, and his fans, and sort of the sort of interpersonal relationship that there is there. I mean, people have been inspired by Man of Steel, like to, get a sense of sort of, I think a lot of people get from Man of Steel a sort of a sense of empowerment of like their identity, their belonging. A lot of people decided they were going to get physically fit as a result of it. It inspired a lot of people to want to be a Superman. And then with Batman v Superman, I think a lot of people kind of identified and saw their own struggles of, self-doubt within the characters, and they saw that reflected on screen, and they were able to identify with that. And through those films and through the way like Zack's art has influenced people, I think that has sort of created that connection in terms of people's personal sort of sense of value and their mental health as well. Sort of this affinity that there is with Zack. I think it's sort of developed what I would call like a sort of a mutually reciprocal, like positive feedback loop, where his art sort of inspires people, and people then feel connected to his art, his family, through the fans, the struggles that they have. And I think overall then it gives people, just like, I mean, how kind of Batman v Superman ended, people see how the darkness kind of became light at the end of that. I think people see, like, I've spoken to a lot of people who it's really affected their own lives, and people even who've felt really in a dark place have felt that Zack's art has really inspired them and made them feel sort of empowered. So I think there's not just a deep confluence between people wanting to see this Justice League movie and getting that for Zack, but Zack gets a lot of comfort as well from the fact that his fans give him such support, and they're so supportive on the side of AFSP. I think that's a really interesting relationship that he has there with his fans. There is this relationship between, obviously the release of Snyder Cut community and the charity work. And at this point, I think it's clear that the release of Snyder Cut banner is beyond. It transcends just the call for a movie. I think it's a movement of people who are inspired to make a difference and to be a force for good in the world. So I think beyond any potential release of Zack's film, I think this is going to continue because it's not just about a film. It's about Zack and it's about the fans. And I think people are going to be inspired to continue to do these kinds of things. And there are more coming, on the horizon. I see people all the time wanting to create their own events now, and not just supporting the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, but their own charitable organizations in their own countries. And, that's like sort of like a beacon out to the world. I think we're going to see a lot more of that stuff.
And no matter what, we're going to keep raising money for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That's never going to stop.
Well said. The main words you said right there was the idea of hope, unity. One big point you made was like, people from around the world, like these fan groups are putting this together. The movement is truly global, and you have people from literally different corners of the globe all coming together for one cause. And I think that's probably one of the most beautiful parts of this whole thing, looking back. But again, you guys see the graphics right there on the screen of how much money they raised. And we're going to have a link in the description for you guys to raise drop whatever you can as well. Any bit goes a long way, and we really appreciate Mick, Cole, and Anna, the Nerd Queens, for giving us their perspective and their insight on how this campaign really found charity work as a huge tentpole.
Before we head into our final discussion segment, it's worth taking time to mention the day that changed everything for Zack Snyder's Justice League, November 17th, 2019. It was the day that the entire fandom came together like never before. Close to 1 million tweets with the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut were sent out that day. My brothers and I were told the day before that Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot would be joining the efforts. I knew at that moment we were about to take this campaign to the top of the mountain. By the end of the day, fans from around the world, crew members from Justice League, actors, sports players, politicians, journalists, all came together to tweet the hashtag. As we now know, that day was the key to the efforts of releasing the Snyder Cut. According to the Hollywood Reporter, a call came to Zack Snyder from Toby Emmer, chairman of Warner Brothers Pictures, on November 18th, and the rest was indeed history. Now, there was one more player to all of this. The acquisition of Time Warner by AT&T presented a new opportunity. Their new streaming service, HBO MAX, presented a new home. Let's discuss how these two elements contributed to the ultimate goal, Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max.
Now, when talking about the story of Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think one of the main developments in this third act that we're in is AT&T's acquisition of Time Warner, which opened up the game. I think when AT&T took over, a new evolution came. And what I like to say, every step is an evolution. I mean, like Mick mentioned before, like when the Blu-ray was coming out, there was some thoughts that, is this the time? And then it was. And then we had, I think Chris mentioned the Wall Street Journal article, like, is something happening on Comic-Con? And then we got that loss as well. So every step we're getting somewhere. I think AT&T buying it was that first good step. And then the second good step was the streaming wars kicking into high gear. And obviously we're in a world now where it's, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and everyone's trying something. Everyone's trying to get in this game. And when everyone's trying to get into a certain new market, they're going to be able to spend much more than originally what you would consider, okay, this is a feasible amount to spend. Budgets are going out of the wall. It's getting crazy. And I think that was the huge opening for Zack Snyder's Justice League to find new life. Actually, I'm going to give one quick anecdotal story beforehand. The first time the Farooqi Bros and I heard about HBO Max was actually Clay Enos coming to our podcast in 2018. And it was just, we're just throwing thoughts in the air of how it's going to happen. He just threw it out there that, maybe in a couple of years, they'll dump it on the streaming service. He just threw it out there. And we're like, and in hindsight, looking back, it's like, well, that's kind of where it's been going. So that's what we heard about it. We're like, okay, it's streaming. Like, we originally think it's made for cinematic only, but then the bigger the streaming wars get, you realize that this is actually a medium that's a brand new medium. Like, it's different from television. It's more prestige than television, and the potential is much higher than regular television. So at that note, I'm now going to kick it to David Film Junkie. Tell us your insight when it comes to HBO Max.
When it comes to HBO Max, I mean, I've been saying that for, even when I was back in my days when I was a cable guy, I'm like, everything is going to go to the internet. I mean, there's going to be a moment in time where I would say to my coworkers, I would say to customers, I'm like, we're just going to install a modem, and that's all you're going to need. You're not going to need a cable box anymore. Everything's going to be streamed online. And now this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, ironically, that Ben Affleck predicted that
Yeah.
around the same time. Like there's a great
Exactly.
video of Ben Affleck
It's
predicting the exact same thing.
Exactly. Me and him are, our chins are just linked up. That's what it is. But no, but yeah, I immediately thought about that. And then when HBO Max was being talked about, I'm like, well, that's a perfect place if they're not going to release it in the theaters and on video, Blu-ray, throw it on a streaming service because that's where it's all going to go. And then when I caught wind that there's a possibility that, well, what if they break it up into like a mini series? And I kind of went, I just sat back like, well, Momoa said they shot enough for, 2 movies. And, it's a 3.5 hour long epic saga with these characters. Zack Snyder is really good at fleshing out his characters, taking his time telling a story. I'm like, well, why wouldn't they do something like that? That actually sounds, that sounds awesome. Why wouldn't he want to do something like that? And I think that's something that he always should. I always thought when he was done doing the movie things, like jump into a series, doing episodes. When it comes to like when he wanted to do Fountainhead, I thought, okay, that book is way too thick. You can stop bullets with that thing. There's no way that he could put that in a movie. He's going to have to put that as a series, just to really tell the story. So when I caught wind about that Justice League could be broken up, in episodic segments, I thought that's absolutely brilliant. More bang for the buck too for the streaming service.
Yeah, well, and that answers so many questions too, because you go back to, like we talked about in the last segment that the two of us were in, the first hurdle with getting people, like especially as a writer, my maybe somewhat unique perspective on this thing, writing about it throughout the entire course, is that there's sort of 2 mindsets that I'm writing for as I do this. There's the fans that kind of believe in it, but maybe believe it's further along than it is, and then there's the people that don't believe it exists at all. And as a writer, you're trying to inform people, but also maybe change their perspective a little bit. And so the hard part, sort of getting over that hurdle, was explaining, yes, it does exist. Like, yes, there is something there. And so there was a lot of research and work and effort that went into proving, to getting people convinced that yes, it exists. But once you kind of get to that point, it's the information came out, and it people came to understand, okay, it exists, but it still needs some funding to get over that amount. Various amounts were thrown out, but the fact of the matter is, it would need several $1 million to be able to be released. Not that that's necessarily a huge problem. Zack Snyder's movies do very, very well on home media, but when you're talking about like a theatrical release, you start dealing with sort of the mathematical reality that when you look at that, the calculus that takes place is that a movie's budget, they're looking for box office revenue that's around 2.5 times, sometimes 3 times whatever the budget was, depending on different factors. And if you're going to release a movie and expect it to do that well, you're also going to need to accompany it with tens of millions of dollars in marketing budget to have it land theatrically. So once we switched to the concept of a streaming service, that 2.5 times budget model is totally irrelevant, because you're no longer talking about individual releases. You're talking about a pool of content drawing revenue from a pool of subscribers. And so you start looking at kind of how these companies spend money on stuff. And you look at like Netflix, they're over, they're $12 billion in debt at this point, making original content because they need to keep people coming to their service with original content. They can't just keep them coming with stuff that they're acquiring from other vendors, especially as like Warner Brothers and Disney, they're all having their own platform and they're all going to have exclusivity on that. Netflix needs its own. So with Warner Media coming out, it needed its own exclusive also, even though they have one of the most, the highest quality historical catalog. They need new content to sort of drive a conversation, like Netflix has with Stranger Things, like they had with the Marvel shows, or like Disney Plus had with The Mandalorian. You need that sort of tentpole talking point. And then you look at like Netflix, their 2018 revenue was $15 billion, whereas like Disney's total theatrical revenue in 2018 was $7 billion. So there's so much more money there, and there's a content war where people are pouring billions of dollars into developing new content. AT&T was pouring in $4 billion to develop content for HBO Max. Now you come back to that idea of Justice League and say, okay, it's 90% complete or whatever, and it's going to take 20, 30, 40 million dollars to get it completed. Well, if you're going to talk about a theatrical release, that may be possible, but
limited, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even if you get it a full, but in terms of like rhetorically speaking, getting people on board with the idea of supporting a theatrical release, people would say, okay, sure, it exists, but it's never going to pull that revenue in. Well, now all of a sudden you've got HBO Max, and you can say, well, no, because it's no longer drawing theatrical revenue; it's drawing attention to a streaming platform that's willing to, Netflix spent, $100 million on Adam Sandler movies. They're not as worried about they're not worried. And, people like Adam Sandler, and that's fine, but you're no longer talking about Rotten Tomatoes. You're no longer talking about box office. You're just talking about, is there an audience being served? And that's exactly what HBO Max does.
Yeah. And it's almost impervious to, any kind of, we already know that there's already people they already have their reviews written out for Rotten Tomatoes. They already have it written out. Now, they know that they've caught wind of this, and they already know that they're just going to hate it because that's just the way it is. I mean, we've been dealing with this ever since freaking Man of Steel, for God's sakes. But the fact of the matter is like, like you said, they need the content, especially now with all the pandemic stuff and everything that's going on. Obviously, they need to have a library. Obviously, they have a library just full of, you see the library for HBO Max. It's pretty insane. I mean, I can't wait to watch reruns of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air myself. But, I mean, there's so much there, but there also needs to be new content. And then, like we discussed before, it's like, you got this movie that's directed by one of the, best visual directors out there of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, all coming together in this like epic story.
Right. Well, starring Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot,
Ben Affleck,
Henry Cavill. Like you talk about it's and you look at like Batman v Superman is talked about. Like this director drives conversation. Who doesn't want his stories attached to your brand?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
so
IP, just individually, these characters are huge names, and for them, if you look at it from a business standpoint, a lot of what Justice League was kind of sunk costs of the fiscal years prior. And when you're looking at it now, you see, okay, what do we need here? We need something, pump it 40, 50, 60, whatever it is. It's basically the quality of a blockbuster for the price of $40 to $60 million. That's a steal. And you have multiple A-listers, and you have the most IPs that are on level with the Avengers. It's a win-win.
Yeah, especially since... No, I was just going to say, especially since they have no desire right now to do anything else with Justice League, so why not? Hey, you got something over here that's completely different than what you had, even though it's the same actors and everything like that. And relatively, I guess you could say almost the same kind of story, little plot points, but at the same time, it's something almost completely different.
Right. Well, and then you introduce the concept of then releasing it episodically. The revenue model has already upended itself. So now all of a sudden, because of the streaming model and the content wars there, you have the justification to put additional investment into this to get it to a place where you can put it on the platform. And the cherry on top is if you cut it up and stretch it out over 1, 2, 3 months, now you're all of a sudden not just getting the, it's $15 a month on HBO Max, right? So now you're not just getting the single ticket or the single or the single Blu-ray, whatever purchase that you're getting at least 3 months of supply from everyone who signs up for that reason. And then ideally, at least most of them stick around beyond that even. So you're turning a one-time hit into a part of your brand. And you can see HBO Max put all these characters front and center. They did their marketing is based on what characters resonate with people, and they found that Ben Affleck's Batman, Henry Cavill's Superman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa's Aquaman. They found that these all resonated with audiences, so they put them all in their marketing. Even if the Snyder Cut wasn't going to be something that they put on HBO Max, these characters would all be there. Like, it only makes brand sense for them to continue that franchise on that platform.
Yeah, I love that. I love that billboard that they have with all the HBO Max, and they have like all their characters like right there. And Ben Affleck's Batman is like the tallest one besides Big Bird. And I'm like, yes, right there. There's the man with the chin.
I mean, it just shows you the importance in today's economy of
front and center
recognizable IP. Big Bird, Batman, Godzilla. Like, they're all there's value there, right? And you want that
very
on your
much
platform.
is.
And Netflix had Daredevil's great, but like you're talking about like recognizable brand IP. No, if HBO Max could have Batman, especially Ben Affleck's Batman, exclusively on their platform, in a version that people has been highly, it's dramatic conversations on. It's been trending on Twitter nonstop. Of course,
It's
you want
mainstream.
to pay for that. Yeah.
It's so mainstream now. I mean, that's when the Harley Quinn series did the shirt, the release of Snyder Cut guy. I mean, it was so great that was put in there, and even the writers were like, yeah, we weren't sure, but the freaking, the fandom was totally game for it. They were perfectly okay with it. I mean, that just shows that it's out there in the ether. It's a mainstream topic. So for HBO Max to not put it on their service, you're just losing money. I mean, you're almost printing money. You're printing subscriptions just for even talking about putting it on there.
Yeah. Well, and it's really exciting and inspiring too, as people have been hoping for and fighting for, and debating or whatever this movie for years now. I mean, technically, even before it was announced, it was controversial. But now even more so. And like going back, the second Batman v Superman came out, or even Man of Steel, like this whole franchise has been that way. And so not only the notion that that it's going to be able to be consumed and rewatched and talked about and debated more, but it's a model that now is proven. Like, the question becomes, what's next, right?
Yeah,
if it makes this possible,
opens doors. Yeah,
what's going to happen next? And
Ben Affleck's Batman.
Exactly. Well, and you look at guys like you look at Chris Wong and Tim and Scott and what they talk about with their audience and their shows. I mean, all those people that just lost the drive to be interested in this franchise or in this brand. This coming out in this way on this platform opens doors to. I mean, it's going to be a good time to be a Zack Snyder fan. It's going to be a good time to be a DC fan. I think this is just the start of some awesome stuff coming because of HBO Max.
And not to mention the history that this is going to create. What other director had a movie that got kind of taken away from them, and then all of a sudden it gets turned into like this epic mini series on a streaming service that everybody's talking about?
Yeah,
that's never going to. It's definitely historic. I mean, it's like it's right in history. Right there.
I think the stars aligned on this one perfectly, and like you said, we're dealing with monopoly money now when it comes to streaming service. And if you see how much money Disney's pouring into Star Wars just for Disney Plus, the money to put in for, let's say, Ben Affleck's Batman, Justice League, to see more Justice League on HBO Max, it's not like fairy tale land stuff anymore. It's stuff that makes sense business-wise.
Yeah, and maybe there's still hurdles, but like the fact that it's a conversation to be had.
Right.
Like, just the way back came out and Ben Affleck said he's done with Batman, and it seemed like it was a done deal. And who knows, maybe he is done. But the fact that this is happening now, all of a sudden, it starts that conversation again of, will we see more? When will we see more? And for years it was such a closed book. And like I said, not only for Justice League is that exciting, but it's also really exciting to look forward and say, wow, if this can change the scenario for Zack and for his Justice League, what else is it going to do?
Yep. I think at that point, I think, the sky's the limit.
All right, guys, we did it. We won. My God, Zack Snyder's Justice League is an announced. It's coming out next year, 2021. I want to just, oh man, my heart goes out. I want to congratulate Zack Snyder, Debbie Snyder, their entire family, the cast and crew of Justice League. I want to congratulate, I want to hug them. It's just been an incredible journey. I am so, happy to have been part of that. It's so warming, heartwarming. I love it, and this is all thanks to you guys. This is all thanks to you guys. Every single one of you that tweeted out hashtag release the Snyder Cut, did everything that you've done, whether it be the charity, the fan events, the billboard, whatever that you've participated into the smallest minuscule amount, that you told the world that you want to release the Snyder Cut, proved that powerful art can heal, and heal it has. It has healed the industry, it has healed the artistic creative integrities, and all this was justice for Autumn Snyder. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Seeing Justice League, I couldn't wrap my head around what I'd just seen. There was this clear intentionality behind the movie, but the intention was not to make a great movie. The intention was to remove anything that reminded people of Zack Snyder, and it felt so vindictive. And I've always been fascinated by this meta-narrative in Zack's movies. And after Justice League, I had this line running through my head over and over and over, and it's from Batman v Superman, where Lois puts her hand on Superman's chest and says, "This means something." And he says, "It did on my world, but my world doesn't exist anymore." And BVS ends with Superman dying, but he leaves with this symbol of hope, or this hope of his return in Justice League. But that didn't happen. I don't know what the version of Superman in Justice League was supposed to make people feel, but it didn't give me that feeling of hope. I don't think it did to other fans either. And this meta-narrative continues where Zack's world was destroyed in more ways than one, but it was clear that his vision still existed, and he was fighting for it. And that gave fans a new symbol of hope. And I remember there was a picture of Superman he posted at one point that said, "He has yet to rise." And it reminded fans that this still means something. And now that Zack Snyder's Justice League is on the way, I have a new line running through my head over and over and over. And it's also from Batman v Superman, where Superman's memorial says, "If you seek his monument, look around you." And through this whole thing, you look at Zack and how much his works touched people personally, and it means so much to them that they all came together to fight for 2.5 years to see this vision realized and changed Hollywood history. And it's like we're back in 2016 now, and Superman is dead, but that dirt on his coffin just rose, reminding you that this world does still exist, and this still means something.
Hi, I'm Nana.
I'm Cole.
I'm Danny.
I'm Meg.
And I'm Kat. And we are Snyder's Amazons. And today we'd like to say congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, so
I just wanted to say thank you to you for taking a stand, for being brave, for consider us part of your craft in a way, thinking about us and everything you do. So thank you, always.
yeah, I second that. Thank you for being our inspiration. Thank you for letting us fight for you. And thank you for giving us these awesome movies. We can't wait for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I just can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you for everything, and thank you for giving us this community.
Thank you so much, Zack, for giving us the best films. And I'm so happy to see that your Justice League will be out on HBO MAX. I'm so proud and I'm so happy. And, justice has been served. And I couldn't be happier and prouder to be part of this movement. So, congrats.
Zack Snyder's Justice League, coming 2021.
We did it, guys. We did it. Hallelujah. Oh, man. I tell you what. I mean, the relief that they have just with what happened when Snyder announced Zack Snyder's Justice League HBO Max. It's crazy. I mean, I couldn't be more happy for the Snyders, for the cast and crew, for the entire fandom. I mean, we all came together and we tried to push this thing. I mean, it seemed like it was a lifetime ago that this whole thing started. But, you know, the whole thing started because we wanted to see Zack's vision. We wanted to see his vision, that what he intended to get out there, and we're finally going to see it. But in the words of Cyborg, right ain't over yet. We still got a year before we see this thing, but it's an exciting time. Hopefully just positive vibes moving forward till we see this. I mean, it's history in the making, guys. It's history. I mean, we've never seen anything like this before, okay? So we're here witnessing history. We're part of history. All of us. Every single one of us is a part of history. So there it is, man. And I can't wait to see him rise. You know what I'm talking about, because he has yet to rise.
Congratulations to you, Zack Snyder, and the Release the Snyder Cut fandom. Almost 3 years of hard work, and it paid off. Just couldn't be happier with everything that we've accomplished and what this means for Zack, Debbie, and the family. We do this for you, we do this for Autumn, and we do this for all of us. And let's just keep going, keep fighting the good fight, as Zack would say, and just very happy and proud to be a part of all this.
Zack, Deb, huge congratulations. It's been a long journey for you guys. So happy for you and the family. Thank you for letting us, the fans, the movement, thank you for letting us carry the torch for you these last couple of years, for trusting us to help make some noise, get the attention. We appreciate your trust that you had in us. And our support is never ending. It doesn't end right here. It keeps going for life. So anything you need from us going forward, we're here. Again, congratulations. This is just huge news. Celebrate with the family. Hold on to these memories. This is just a great time. Congrats.
Hi, Zack and Deb. I just wanted to offer you guys a huge congratulations. What can I say that hasn't already been said, other than that we are extremely proud to be a part of such a monumental movement and a big part of history, allowing your vision to be completed, and it's really exciting. It's something that we as a fandom are extremely driven by and passionate for, and that passion continues on. Again, a huge congratulations for you all, and we look forward to continuing this fight with everyone. Congrats.
Hey, Zack and Deb, just wanted to say congrats again with the rest of the guys, what they've been saying. Just we know how much hard work you guys have put into this, how even before Justice League, 7 years before you guys put in this, and to see it come full circle, it's the best feeling in the world to see you and your family happy, to see redemption for your family. So, we got your back for life. This won't stop just because the movie's out. We know we're going to keep going, and we want you to do that. We appreciate all the support back.
All right, Zack. Yeah, congratulations once again, you, to Deborah, to the entire family, and like Dave said, this is just the beginning. We're not stopping here. This is just a new chapter that's starting right now. That last chapter we've accomplished and we've completed. So yeah, thanks for believing us all these years, and it's our way of just kind of giving back to what you've given us over the past few years with your work and with your encouragement, with your with everything. Basically, we just appreciate you, and this is just our way of giving back. And like I said, this is just the beginning. We're going to keep going for you, for your family, and for your work. And yeah, congratulations. All the best to you. We're all very ecstatic about it.
Yeah, same here, Zack. Just congratulations to you, to Debbie, to all of the family, your cast and your crew. I mean, to see their work vindicated like this it's amazing, and we're also proud to be a part of this and to have been able to help just a little bit for you guys. And to see
Autumn's memory honored like this, and to know that like within this work her legacy is going to live on is, you know, it's really, really amazing. And we're just so happy for you guys, happy that you got justice for yourselves. And you know, we're going to keep going. We're never going to stop fighting for the good fight. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep pushing for awareness for this movie and for AFSP going forward and beyond. We can't wait to see what you do with Army of the Dead. We're going to be behind you with that one all the way. And yeah, we just hope you guys celebrate and have a great time, you know, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy finishing off this movie, and can't wait for all of us to see it. So thanks again for your friendship and your trust, your belief in us, and belief in yourself most. And we can't wait. So congratulations.
Hey Zach, it's Geraldo Cortez from Brazil, from TPZ. Once again, I wanted to congratulate you, Debbie, your family, the cast and crew of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and wanted to say that it's really hard to put into words how happy I am for you. It really feels like a planetary realignment, especially after everything that happened in 2017. And so this is it. It's happening. And I couldn't be happier for you, man. And know that even after this, all of your fans have your back. We'll never stop supporting you. And thank you so much for having me along for the ride. It's been a real pleasure, and there's more to come. Love you, brother. Cheers.
What can anybody say other than we did it? You did. You did it, Zach. And I say thank you. Thank you for letting us be on the journey of the heart with you and your family. Step by step to victory, no less. So congratulations are in order. Yes, they most certainly are. Love you, dude. The ultimate alliance.
Hey, Zach. Just wanted to say congratulations. I am so happy for you. This is such a victory for you and your family, for Autumn, for the fandom, for everyone who cares about your movies, for everyone that feels a connection to you and everything you've put into your movies. And I just want to thank you for being who you are, doing what you're doing, making the movies that you make. And I want to thank you for believing in the fans, obviously believing in yourself, and using all the energy of the fandom to help push the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I couldn't be happier for you. I'm so glad that this is happening. Congratulations. Thank you. You are amazing. Love you, brother.
Hey, Zach and Deborah, I just want to say congratulations to you guys. I know this has been a long emotional journey, certainly for you and your family. It has been for us as well, in the fan community that have just loved the filmmaking that you guys have given us over the years. I know for me, it started with Man of Steel. That was the film that made me fall in love with Superman. It was a film where I felt like somebody finally understood the character, and I've always appreciated what you did for me when it comes to my love for Superman with that film. But I couldn't be happier that you finally get a chance to finish your true vision of Justice League. And I gotta say, I hope we actually get a chance for you to add even more to that. I know we're certainly gonna be pushing for it. So on behalf of the Squadcast and our listeners, I just wanna say again, thank you so much for all that you've done for us and all the joy that you've brought to us with your films. And so I just couldn't be happier, and we just cannot wait to see what you've got coming for us. So again, thank you.
Zach, the last few days since the cut has been announced, there's been an amazing outpouring of fandom and love and community that I am going to be honest, I haven't seen in almost 3 years. It has been so wonderful to see old friends and people who maybe we haven't spoken to or connected just breathe this heavy sigh of relief and come together to celebrate the thing that you created and will continue to create in the months to come. And for that, I want to say thank you so much for never giving up and never wavering in this fight for your movie to come out. And for all that, all I can say is congratulations, Zach.
Hey Zack, my name is Fran and I live all the way up in Spain. I would like to congratulate you on your release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's been a rough couple of years, but we finally got it done. I'm happy that justice has been done and that your true vision is going to be out there so the rest of the world can really admire your true work. I would also like to thank you for being the incredible inspiration that you are to a lot of people, including myself. Thank you for never giving up and thank you for your continued support of the movement. It's meant the world to us. And like Ray Fisher said, the ride ain't over yet. Thank you and congratulations, Zack.
Hello, Zack. It's Ben from Real Anarchy, the Real Emotion podcast. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us an opportunity to be part of something greater than us, being part of this community that is more than a community. It's a family, and just like any other family, we have squabbles where we might disagree, but we all rally behind one thing and one common cause, and it was to make sure that this movie came out. And this week has been incredible. It's been like an out-of-body experience, to say the least, and there's no words that can describe how happy I am that we're gonna get to see this movie and that you're gonna be able to tell your story the way that you intended to tell your story. We want to thank you for the bottom of our hearts that you endured this whole 3 years with such grace, respect, and peace with everybody, and you brought peace to everybody around you. And at the same time, you created something that was not part of our community. It was to raise awareness for suicide prevention. That is something that we're going to continue to fight. That is something that we're going to continue to support, and that you can count on us anytime that you want support from us. And from all of us here, from me personally, I'll be behind it anytime that you need us to. And thank you so much again. And we can wait for what you have in store for us next year and what you have in stores in the future for all your endeavors.
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't, I don't know if I could say even more on that. My name is John Garza. I've been following you, Zack, since 300. It's been a wild, wild ride in every single film you've ever come out with, be it 300, Watchmen, Man of Steel. When those films hit and came out to theater, I just remember there was an experience that I did not know that I was ready for. I never anticipated knowing what I was doing. I just know that your films left a tremendous impact on my everything. And so getting to BVS, it changed my entire worldview. And so knowing that we're finally gonna get your Snyder Cut of Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, because the entire thing is as bad as it is, it was because the Justice League that got released in theaters is why I'm even doing what I do right now. The reason why I write for the site, for Real Anarchy, the reason why I do these videos on Real Emotion, the reason why I create trailers is because of Justice League, because that situation affected me so negatively that I said, I have to do something about this. I couldn't just sit there and let it just go by, because I think it meant more to me. Knowing that you put your heart and soul into it. So it affected me more than I thought it would, but I'm so thankful that it did, because unfortunately, if that would have never happened, I don't know if I would have started writing. I don't know if I would have started doing these videos. And I don't know if I would have actually started doing anything except going on and experiencing your films the way they are. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Everybody that writes about you, at least for the Real Anarchy team, and everything you've done over the course of these past 3 years in engaging with your fans and doing something that I've never seen a director do is probably the most thankful thing that I have to say. So thank you very much. It truly does mean the world to me. Me and my daughter. My daughter is such a massive fan. Like literally BVS is her favorite film. She's watched that like at least 300 times. So believe me when I say that me and you, I mean, not me and you, but me and her, we're one of your biggest fans. And she's 12. So she's watched all your films. She loves 300. That's a fan of 300. Go
figure.
12. Yeah, go figure. So thank you, Zack. Thank you, Deb, and thank you everybody that's going to be involved in releasing Zack Snyder's Justice League. It truly means a lot to us.
Hey Zach, I just want to congratulate you on this crazy achievement. I want to say thank you for all of the support and love that you give to your fans, and also congratulations to your family. This is a day that I had hoped would come for a very, very long time, and I'm so glad that it's finally here, and that we get to celebrate with you. This next year is going to be probably one of the best ever, and I just want to thank you for giving me and a lot of other people something to fight for, and something to be a part of. So thank you, and congrats.
Congratulations, Zach, on the news of your version of Justice League that will be released to the public. Being able to meet with so many of the cast members, crew, writers, storyboard artists, photographers, I all asked them that one burning question: do you want to see Zack Snyder's version of Justice League released? Each and every one of them answered unanimously, and again, at the time, on and off the record, yes, they want to see your version of Justice League. So I, along with the rest of the Snyder Cut fans who did our part on social media, going to conventions and so on and so forth, and just pushing that out there, donating to a great cause, we are again all excited and all ecstatic, and we're all looking forward to 2021.
Hi Zach, I'd just like to say thank you ever so much for creating these amazing universes that have allowed us as fans to escape and find happiness and joy in them. And I'd also like to say congratulations on the fact that you can finally say that you can release the Snyder Cut, and I'm so thankful of the journey, and I'm so thankful of everything, and I cannot wait until 2021 when we'll finally be able to see the true vision that you had for these amazing characters that we hold dear to our hearts.
Hi Zach, I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm so happy that your movie is finally going to be released. I've been waiting for it for a really long time, and I can't believe we're finally going to see it. I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you and Debbie, and I just can't wait for the next year.
You deserve this. You deserve this so much. Zack is one of the most dedicated and passionate filmmakers out there. You can tell by watching his movies. You can tell just by hearing him talk. He loves what he does, and he loves these characters, so it's really exciting that after all of this time, we finally get to see his vision as intended. And I think, you know, regardless of how one may feel about his movies, it's undeniable that he has a vision and that he's an auteur, and auteurs deserve to have their vision shown. So I'm really excited for him. He deserves this so much, and I cannot wait for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Hey Zach, just wanted to congratulate you on your Justice League being announced. We are super excited and happy for you, your family, the cast, the fans, the crew, everybody that worked on the film. And man, it just feels like a win. It feels like one of those things that you never thought would happen. You would fight for something that sometimes you would think, okay, maybe this thing isn't gonna happen. We might not catch a win on this one, but it's crazy. We have won. We can't wait to see what you have planned for the film, and maybe something in the future. And the main thing I would like to say is thanks for making your films in such a way where they are truly inspiring, they are truly powerful films. Any filmmaker that can get the compliment of, hey, your films took me out of a dark place, I think that is the power of your filmmaking. I think there's a reason why the fans wanted to see Justice League. It's not just because they wanted to see where you're gonna take these characters, but they wanted to see what journey they can also take in their own life. What inspiration can they take? I think that is a true testament to the power of your filmmaking, and honestly, I can't wait to see what kind of positive impact it has on the people that watch, and not just the people that watch, but also myself personally. So with that being said, thanks for all that you've done, and we took a dub, we won.
Hey Zach, we all know it's been a long 3 years, and it's incredible to see how far this fandom has gone, you know, the lengths it's taken to get to this point, and we're all really glad that we can finally see your vision for what it is. We're all incredibly excited for 2021 to finally get the Snyder Cut, and you know, congratulations, man.
Hey Zach, just want to say congratulations
to you, the entire cast, the crew, your family. It's been a long 3 years fighting all the fans, all the support, the campaigns, the events. Everything has all come to this point, this moment, where your vision will finally be realized. And we just couldn't be more happier for you and your family. And we can't wait to see your vision finally being realized. And I know it's going to be huge. It's going to be great when it releases, and excited to see where it leads from there on. I mean, at this point, the sky's the limit now that we've finally crossed this hurdle. Anything's possible. So this is for you. This is for your family. And just want to say congrats again, man.
Hey, Zach. Congratulations. You did it. The fans did it. Your vision will be realized in 2021. I think I speak for my brothers and I when we say that we're so happy for you and your family. This is something that was 3 years too late, but in many ways, it came at the perfect time, at a time where people needed it. Your vision now, we feel, will be even more respected than it was before. Because people saw how much you fought for your own artistic integrity, how much the fans rallied behind that fight. We know how much this means to you, how much it means to your family, how much tragedy came before this film, and how this film could potentially help with the healing process. The last 3 years have been evolution after evolution. From the whispers that there was a Snyder Cut the first week the theatrical cut came out, to charity events, billboards, flights flying over Comic-Con with your film's name on it. Everyone was down for the same goal. No matter what part of the world they were from, everyone who was a fan of your films wanted to see the Snyder Cut come out. And now, we are going to witness Zack Snyder's Justice League come to fruition. And honestly, more than seeing the film, more than seeing your vision, more than seeing your Justice League naturally and organically come to screen, we're more happy for you, man. This is for you. So congratulations. We can't wait to see your work going forward. Thanks, Zach.
Hey guys, just a quick word of thanks. You know as well as I do that none of this would be at all possible without your incredible dedication and incredible perseverance. This whole thing started and I thought, it's amazing that these guys want to see what I made, but I was sure it would go away, and it didn't. Not only did it not go away, but it started to become a real movement. And I saw it raise awareness for ASFP. I saw it bring a giant group of people together. And I saw one voice that changed the world and made anything possible. So for that, I just want to say thank you. You guys are amazing.